Chris Evans as Lucas Lee in different roles. And Action Doctor, I think the tagline for Action Doctor is, "The good news is you're gonna live. The bad news is he's gonna kill you." And then it says, "Check your pulse, May 8th." We did loads of those. Chris was such, that's the first thing that Chris did. Chris is such, he's so funny. I mean, he's so kind of up for like setting himself up, and yeah, I don't know if we'll make an Action Doctor film, but it was fun to do the poster at least. Right here.
For Michael Cera, how much of the stunt work did you actually do? Because in advance, no offense, I would not have thought Michael Cera a monumental task.
And now?
Be careful, he can strike you.
Well, we all trained for like 2 months. Like, is that what you asked? You asked what the training was?
I was just wondering
How much it was? Oh, how much it was? Yeah, most of it was me, you know, and then the stuff that was kind of obviously not me, like anything involving legs, had nothing to do with me. I can't raise my legs any higher than this, honestly. So, but you know, we did a lot of our own stuff. I got punched in the head. I got kicked in the throat, full power. Have you ever been kicked in the throat? Have you ever been kicked in the throat?
And a flying kick as well.
Has anybody here been kicked in the throat? Well, you deserve it.
Yeah, I didn't deserve it. I was just trying to do my job. We did a lot of our own stuff.
Back corner.
For Mary, you've done Sky High and Final Destination 3, and that you seem to like you didn't you just finish the thing prequel?
I did.
Yes, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh, good.
So you seem to gravitate a lot towards genre films. Is that a conscious decision?
I think it's semi-conscious, I guess. I think it's a mix of me gravitating toward that and it gravitating towards me. I'm not really sure how it comes about, but I think that for some reason, whatever qualities I possess, people seem to want to put me in films like that, and I'm more than happy to be a part of it. I like playing strong female characters, and I feel like those are represented more often in genre films. So I'm happy to continue to do it.
So are we.
Yay!
I was just curious, everyone's favorite scene to do.
Favorite thing to do in Scott Pilgrim?
I like shooting the. I mean, the fight scenes were really fun to do, but they're incredibly meticulous, and they take as long to film as they are fast to watch. So you know, so the things that I kind of enjoyed doing the most is when we actually did some of the musical performance pieces, because you know the cast could just kind of go for it, and you know, especially doing the one with the twins and the dragon, and just having enormous jet engine fans and sparks going off, and these guys all rocking out on stage was just like, you know, fun to do, especially with such a great track. I didn't really get bored of the tracks ever, like, so we would obviously listen to those songs like round the clock, and I never really tired of them, so that was cool.
I like the alleyway stuff with Michael and me. The question was, what? It's so funny, you asked what we did, right? It's not my favorite part of the movie, but it's the favorite part that I was in.
I love that scene where we're all in the green room backstage, because that was one of the few scenes we did where we kind of ran all the way through it, all the way through the dialogue, and it was really fun. It was fun watching Bree and Brandon, and they had just showed up, and yeah, that was a fun one.
Michael, what happened to the shower scene that I think you and Jason had?
DVD, I think. The director's unrated DVD, maybe.
It's not the director's cut. It's not the director's cut. It's the director's copy. I've only got the only copy.
The director's
cut. The difference between director's cut and director's copy.
That was fun. That was a fun scene. I mean, really, 2 words say it all.
Great
detachable shower head.
That was Jason's nickname while we were shooting.
As they called me. Well, that's what you called me.
Well, Jason, earlier you were talking talking about, you know, the join me, Father and Son will take over the galaxy, that sort of. I just like to say, you're a lot more sincere than Darth Vader. How did you pull that off?
Thank you. Edgar really is the, I know it's a boring answer, but he really is the reason for this all. And the fun thing that was so fun for me is when I showed up to Toronto to shoot the movie, I came in basically almost last after a very long shoot, and he was showing me all these clips of all the other Evil X's, and it was amazing to watch. And but personally, I was very insecure. I was like, God, they're all so amazing. I hope I can be as evil as these other people and be a good fight, you know, be a good Evil X. And talking to Edgar about, you know, what he wanted, and like I said earlier, we talked about being passive aggressive. You know, because that is sort of, at least that's kind of my worst nightmare in meeting a girlfriend's ex, is when they're really nice. And I've had that happen to me. I've met assholes and I've met passive-aggressive people, and I much prefer the asshole. Because it just, you know, it's clear and at least they're being honest. But the passive-aggressive person they're so fucking awful. And but Edgar said passive-aggressive, and I was thinking, you know, I think there are two types of passive-aggressive people. There are people who are obviously passive-aggressive, where you meet them and you go, this guy's lying to me. And then there are people who do seem really nice and sincere, and then later you find out they're pulling the strings and they're very manipulative. And so Edgar we had this idea that, you know, we weren't sure what kind he would be, so we almost had like a scale of obviously passive-aggressive, and then, you know, being 10, and one being just not evil and really meaning what he says. And so we would do different versions of things, and you know, I think, like, for instance, when I say to Scott as I'm getting in the limo, you know, I'm sorry about this, let's just put it behind us, I was in a dark place. You know, there were versions where he probably was in a dark place and sad and regretful, and then times when he was just totally lying to Michael. And so I think that makes my character seem insane, kind of, is that Edgar had so many versions of passive-aggressive and evil and actually nice to choose from. So maybe that's where it all comes from. But it was really fun to do that. It was really fun to... And Brian Lee O'Malley said something that was really nice, too, which was to not forget that this whole movie is told through Scott Pilgrim's eyes. So when you're thinking about Gideon, you don't have to be a real Gideon Graves. You can be how Scott pictures you and what Scott's version of you is. And so that is where kind of the passive-aggressive but sweet and patronizing person comes from. Basically, like, the idea is, what is Michael doing, and how can I be the opposite of Michael in a lot of ways? So maybe that's where, I don't know. I don't give a shit.
Right over there.
I was just wondering, what affected your decision with the fight with the twins to use the CGI dragons and not a robot? Because I was really looking forward to Scott getting his ass beat by a giant robot.
Basically, we wanted to, you know, because we were sort of using all the 7 Evil X's in one film, like, we wanted to have, we basically kind of, one of the things that's different from the books is having Sex for Bomb kind of continue throughout, so their kind of rise through the ranks is, you know, mirrored by Scott Pilgrim, you know, fighting the X's. And with the twins, we wanted the idea that the two things would come together, so it would kind of continue Sex for Bomb's thread. So that was where the idea of that came about. And actually it was kind of based on older ideas that Brian had had before he kind of, you know, he had ideas for the twins, and we used some ideas that he didn't. And one of them was about the idea of them being like electro artists. So as soon as I saw that written down and I'd seen the drawings of them, just the idea of them being the Japanese craft work started to sort of appeal to me. And so yeah, I think there was also at one point like an ending where Gideon was going to turn into a robot, which again was like an early idea that Brian had had. And we drew the storyboards for it and everything, and then we just thought, this is just going to look like it's a joke on Iron Man or Transformers, and we ditched it and did the pixel sword thing instead. So the robots went away, but I enjoyed having like a Yeti and dragons. I don't know. But
Okay.
you know, it's cool in the book, I agree.
We have time for one more question before I have to take them over to the other theater. So, be excited. Who's the most excited? Okay, yes,
Waver,
right.
Waver Man.
Waver Man.
Michael, just wondering how well you were able to relate to the character Scott Pilgrim, and if while you were filming or going over the story, if it brought up any memories of your own relationships or anything.
Any battles with evil exes?
Concerned that this is going to be a boring answer for the last question.
Make it up.
Make up a lie. Be creative.
Be creative. Lie to you. Okay, thank you, sir. Well, I've had many relationships in the past where it ended with complete heartbreak and broken lives. And, so in that way I could relate, because he's the guy who kind of breaks people's lives. And there were a few girls that I kind of left just... I literally actually drove away and left a girl in a ditch once. And one time I buried a girl. I actually shoved a girl's body underneath the roots of a tree underground so that she was pinned under the roots. And,
are those your fondest memories?
Those are my fondest memories. Yeah, those are the nice ones. Those are the ones where we're still friends. So I could relate. I could relate.